Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Battle for Wesnoth. This is the last game of Round 1 of the Battle for Wesnoth Amateurs Cup. We have Stev versus Calendiel, and this first game, we have Stev as the Loyalists versus Calendiel as the Drakes. Loyalists versus Drakes is an interesting matchup, because both Loyalists and Drakes are primarily lawful factions, so during the daytime they both kind of want to go on the offensive. Now, the difference is, the Drakes have functional units in the nighttime as well, because they have the chaotic Saurians. The Loyalists have no chaotic units whatsoever, which means that they're a little bit more hampered during the nighttime. That said, Saurians aren't really very good against the Loyalists. Saurians, with their piercing damage, they do well against Loyalist cavalry, but beyond that, Loyalists have what I would call almost a trump card against the Drakes in the form of Spearmen. They have a relatively cheap, 14 gold, level 1 unit that does a whole bunch of piercing damage, so any Drake units are extremely vulnerable to fighting Spearmen, especially because they even have a piercing ranged attack. It only has one shot, but it will still do some significant retaliatory damage to Drakes that are coming in to try and use their Fire Breath. So, as the Loyalists in this matchup, you can very much just spam Spearmen, and then have a couple of mages, maybe, to support against Saurians. Obviously, mages have to be kept safe against Saurians, which can be difficult since they can skirmish. But if you can keep them safe, they do quite a bit of damage to Saurians. So, let's get to it. So, from the Loyalists, we have an initial recruit of 3 Spearmen, a Bowman, a Cavalryman, and a Merman. Pretty solid. Spearmen are just a really solid base unit for the Loyalists. They're just really good. Give me just a second so I can turn off my turn off my notifications from Discord, actually, by the way. Okay, so we're back. So yeah, Loyalist Spearmen are very solid units in a lot of matchups. The only matchup where I would say they're not good is against the Undead. Against the Drakes, they're incredibly solid. I would venture to say probably one of the best level 1 units. So from the Drakes, we've got kind of a cautious early recruit, a fighter, a glider, and a Saurian skirmisher. Probably just wanting to see who he's fighting before he recruits a whole bunch of units, which is fair. And then we've got a Drake Clasher coming out. Clashers are pretty good. They don't have the weakness to piercing. They're slower than other Drake units, but a lot tougher. So now we can see we've got visual on both sides, and the Loyalists are pressing forward very, very aggressively. They've claimed 7 villages. There's still 1 village on their side they haven't claimed. And they're pushing their cavalrymen forward very aggressively to try and scout. If that cavalryman runs into this Drake Clasher, he's going to regret his entire life. But with only a Drake Glider here, he can probably get away. And we've got a couple of Saurian Augurs coming out for healing, I presume. Now, this is going to be very much a slap fight. The Saurian Skirmisher actually has better damage output than the Merman, but less HP. And, of course, has high defense in the water. But it looks like they're really ganging up on that poor Merman. They're really ganging up and not accomplishing much. Trading a lot of damage. Okay, they left the cavalrymen alone for some reason. So we're in this interesting position where it's nighttime. The Drakes actually only have 6 villages. Because one of their villages has been snaffled over here. And I think one of these back here hasn't been claimed. And the Loyalists actually appear to be pushing, which is kind of a weird thing for them to be doing at nighttime. But if these Saurian Skirmishers break off over here and go take this cavalryman out, they'll be able to kill him pretty effectively. He has low defense in villages and a vulnerability to piercing damage. Meanwhile, up here, we do have a mage coming down to support, and a bowman and a spearman. Also pushing on the other flank with a couple of spearmen. And we have a horseman recruit. Horsemen are death against the Drakes. That high damage piercing charge attack is absolutely destructive. So, yeah, the Loyalists are really making a pretty forceful nighttime push over on this flank. And the Drakes, they have some money in the bank. They don't seem to have the resources in place to really stop that push. And yeah, they appear to be kind of pulling back a little bit. And they didn't, not sure if they recruited either. Alright, apologies for the little discontinuity. I just realized that I had forgotten to reset the stats window so that we could see the actual statistics. So we can see here, the Loyalists are the only ones who've lost a unit. However, they've had actually what I would call a pretty significant village advantage for a couple of turns, so I think they may actually be up on gold right at the moment. In terms of statistics, the Drakes' luck has been fairly uniformly poor in terms of damage dealing, so nothing too exciting there. They do have a Saurian Augur that's pretty close to leveling up, though, which is nice. But yeah, as I said, they're pulling back here. They're kind of regrouping to, I think, try to fight during the daytime. That Clasher needs to get out of there. He is isolated and in a bad way. But attacking an Augur with a cavalryman is never wise. And attacking with a mage that does fire damage, yes, the mage will do free damage, but not a whole lot of it. But that cavalryman, I think, is doomed. And, yep, there we go. Now we've got a level, so we leveled up to an Oracle, so the higher damage cold magic attack. They're trying to kill this mage. Honestly, okay, so point of order, I wouldn't worry about the mage too much right at the moment. You have a variety of Drake units. Yes, the mage can do a bunch of damage to your Saurians, but given that you have some expensive Drake units that are a little bit vulnerable, I would probably try to kill the bowman if you can, and I think this skirmisher could have reached the bowman. So I don't know. I think either choice can be defended here. Just a little note. Oh, almost got her. Ah, there we go. Okay, so the Loyalists have actually now lost quite a number of units. That was a very aggressive attack, and it resulted in them losing, 50 gold worth of units pretty quickly. Now they still have that village advantage. It's still 9-6 in terms of villages. But, I'm just not sure it was super worth it. I don't know. I think the Loyalists have actually put themselves a little bit on the back foot just by virtue of taking so many casualties. They're really trying to kill this Saurian, and they did it, but they took quite a bit of damage in the process. Oh, but they got a clean charge on a Drake, so that was pretty catastrophic. There's definitely some damage coming back out. That guy, if at all possible, needs to get onto the horseman. And it couldn't make it because the bone was still in the way. But the Loyalist attack is just being destroyed. That said, this horseman... There's the thing with horsemen. Even though he's badly injured, he's not dead. And he could kill this Drake Clasher in one shot. If we look at his spear attack, it does... Well, it only does 9 damage versus Drake Clashers, but I think his next turn will be full day, so we'll be getting the damage bonus. At which point, I think he'd be able to charge this Drake Clasher down in one hit. Trying to kill him off with Fire Breath. Oh, there we go. Good luck. Killed him off with Calendiel's Fire Breath. Okay, so Calandiel is... I would say Calandiel, while on the defensive... he's inflicted fairly disproportionate losses, like disproportionate to the extent that I don't think the difference in income can cover for it. Especially because some of that difference is about to go away. Oof. Yeah, trading hits with spearmen as Drakes is never a good thing. Just because Drakes have first strike and they do so much damage. Oh, there we go, we got him. Alright, so now the villages have swung back into equilibrium. And I think the Loyalists are still... I think the Loyalists are on the downside of the trade. That poor Drake fighter, though. That poor Drake fighter has gotten the absolute hell stabbed out of it. So, Calendiel has secured a kind of solid defensive position. He's recruiting more units and hopefully getting ready for a push. He should be getting ready for a push. Yep, okay, it looks like we're pushing up on the flank with a Saurian Augur and a couple of Drakes in support. That Oracle needs to get involved. We've got some Saurian skirmishers launching an attack on this position. They don't have great terrain, however. And this Drake Clasher is in the open out in front of 2 Spearmen, which isn't a great place to be. Especially with a Bowman right there to support. See, that Clasher almost got murdered in 1 round. That's the thing with Drakes. Piercing damage just really does ruin them. Okay, so that Clasher's within 1 point of leveling, but he also can't afford to take a round of attacks. Oh no. You gotta block that Spearman. You've got to block him. Okay, good. Alright, yeah, I would say overall the Drakes have had the better of the fighting. It's been a little, that aggressive push was a little bit rough for them, but they really made the Loyalists pay for every inch. Excuse me. And now they've got kind of mutually supporting healers set up. And a 2nd level. So they've now got 2 Saurian Oracles. The Drakes have got 2 level 2 units, and the Loyalists have no levels. In fact, the Loyalists have almost no experience. And with that, Stev has surrendered the game. He's decided that he can't win it at that point, so he has given it up. I think that's fair. Like I said, Calendiel definitely had the better of the fighting so far. He had leveled up units, he had units with very high experience. The Loyalist attack just had not been able to penetrate his defense. To be honest, I think Stev was just a little bit over-aggressive with that attack down here. He lost a bunch of units pretty early in the game, and that is devastating in Wesnoth. You can see here, very lopsided kill count by the end, despite the fact that the luck was not terrible. You can see here the Loyalists got slightly unlucky. 8% more damage than expected, while inflicting pretty much exactly as much damage as expected. But even so, this is a horrifically lopsided kill count, and it's mainly Spearmen. 5 Spearmen, a Horseman is expensive, a Mage is expensive. All these units just kind of got picked apart by very solid defensive play on Calendiel's part. So, let's move on to game number 2, which is, as you can see here, Rebels versus Drakes on, I forget what the name of this map is, Howling Badlands, I think. In any case, Rebels versus Drakes is actually another one of those really kind of tough matchups for the Drakes, because Elvish Archers are what Drakes hate. They have high defense, they have multiple attacks, so they can contend effectively with Saurians. They have a lot of piercing damage. You have Elvish Fighters, which have good melee attacks, then also ranged piercing retaliation, preventing Fire Breath from being used effectively on them. They still have mages to deal with Saurians if necessary. I wouldn't really recruit Wozes in this matchup, but you have Wozes, I guess, if you want them. Anyway, I would say the Rebels have a pretty significant matchup advantage. Possibly even more than the Loyalists. So we do have a Woz coming out. Round 1. Same recruit as last time for Calendiel. Stev has started off with a Shaman, an Archer, as 2 Scouts, and a Woz. Elvish Scouts aren't very good in combat, but they are extremely fast and have high defense in terrain, unlike most cavalry. So that's a nice quality for them. They don't have high defense in villages, unfortunately. Also, looking at this map has only very small and scattered forests. You got a forest right there, one there, they're browned out, they're dead forests. So, they exist, but I think the Rebels are going to have to work hard to leverage a whole lot of value from them. But, Woz. Personally, I just wouldn't recruit a Woz turn 1 as the Rebels, because there are some matchups where it's just worthless. If anything, an active detriment, considering how expensive it is. But, hey, sometimes it might be the thing to do. It's a gamble, I guess is what I'm saying. Got double Clasher recruit there, so going heavy on the armored, flightless, fire breathless Drakes. Interesting. And of course he does have an Arbiter as his leader. So the Drakes appear to be getting ready for a bit of a push over here. And we've got some combat on the flank. Okay, sorry, discontinuity once again, I know. I just wanted to point out, this over here was a very aggressive move. And I'm not sure if it was totally justified. Because we have 5 Drake units over here that are easily within reach of these guys. And within reach of this squadron. Personally, I think the move from the Rebels would have been to keep all these people pretty much in the same place. Now, the Skirmishers can ignore Zone of Control, but the Drakes can't. So if you'd had the Archer and the Scout up here in this fort, they would have essentially locked off these squares to the Drakes. Now, the Drakes could still have attacked Quolia, and Quolia would probably have died. Well, actually, that's a forest square, so 70% defense. Quolia might not have died. They may have targeted Fana, the Elvish Shaman, and killed her off. They might have even gone after the Woes with the Drake Fighter's Fire Breath, but honestly, there's not enough Fire Breath over here to seriously threaten the Woes. And the Woes is a decent answer to Drake Clashers, just on account of being highly resistant to, piercing damage. I guess the Woes is not resistant to blade damage, so not a great answer to Clashers. More of a resistant against Saurian Skirmishers. Honestly, the Drake recruitment here has made the Woes a lot more viable, just because there isn't a whole lot of fire on the field yet. But this over here, I think, was a mistake. They've got an elf squad isolated on good but not ideal terrain, with a whole bunch of enemies available, and those enemies are just going to kill these units. Probably. Maybe not. Maybe they'll get super lucky. But you can't count on getting super lucky. If it happens, great. But, you know. Now, they are on low defense terrain, so they can be retaliated against. But I still don't think it's worth it. And those mushrooms are not 70% defense. They are 50% defense. Fungus and forests are not the same thing for elven purposes. I think we're about to see another expensive elvish archer go down. Yep, there we go. Okay, so the rebel attack on the left side has been very thoroughly crushed, very thoroughly and one-sidedly. 3 units dead, 2 of them expensive elvish archers for 1 Saurian skirmisher. Luck-wise, overall the Saurians have actually been getting way unlucky, but they scored a crushing victory over there despite that. That was just good planning. Over on this side, Calendiel is advancing his Drake Arbiter. We have a face-off, but no actual fighting, really, beyond a few arrows fired. And Calendiel's now pulling back to recruit another Augur. Calendiel, I've noticed, makes quite heavy use of Augurs, which is probably a good idea. I mean, they're not the most damaging units, but they are magical attacks, and they do heal. Both of which are excellent qualities. Okay, so they've got a Woes hidden in that wood right over there. But this Elvish Scout is just really getting the business handed to him. And, yep, ambush. But I don't think the ambush is going to save that Woes. It's too slow to get away, and it's now being bombarded by magical attacks. Oh, good punch, though. Excellent punch. The Elvish Scouts are doing decent harassing work, but not a whole lot of damage. Alright, so they got a kill over there, but I don't think they're gonna be able to follow it up. I think overall we've just got too few Elvish units on the field. I think they're getting overwhelmed by the Drakes. And when you're getting overwhelmed by the Drakes, who are notoriously expensive and low unit count, then you know there's a problem. And we've now got a Drake Burner, aka the Anti-Woes. So that Woes is not long for this world. With 21 HP at daytime against the Drake Burner, gonna die in 2 hits. Literally gonna die in 2 hits. I kind kind of miss the old Woe's death animation, though, where they just toppled dramatically like a tree that had been cut down. Okay, we've got a skirmisher that's pretty close to leveling. Maybe they're going to try to level it on this scout. It would help if the magicians could hit something. Yeah, at this point, I gotta say it. I think Stev's just doomed. I mean, he has 31 gold in the bank, so he can afford to recruit a couple of units, but unit count-wise, he has a grand total of 5. That's counting his leader. Whereas the Drakes have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So outnumber him 2 to 1, and that's with Drake units. And Calendiel has also built up a significant store of experience, which Stev can't match because all his units keep dying. Trying to get the level there. There we go, he fished out the kill. And Calendiel is perfectly happy to once again sit on the defensive and build up. And Stev is kind of playing into his hands by launching these really aggressive attacks. Okay, so Calendiel is now advancing. He's staying mostly on good terrain. And he's advancing with very heavy Saurian support. And Saurians are very, very good defensive units. So you see here, the Saurians block off access to his Drake, which has, of course, low defense on almost all terrains. But I think he's about to put in an attack of his own, because this little archer squad up here can't stop a mass assault. I mean, they're outnumbered so heavily. He may wait until nighttime, I guess. Well, no, looks like he's going in now. Or next turn, more likely. The elves are definitely pushing on that side as well, but they're going to take damage in the process of trying to do this. And here we go. Once again, trying to fish out a level. Oh, went a little bit too far. Now, I would say that this is a really dangerous place for this clasher to be unless he plans to score a kill. And once again, Stev has conceded defeat. Okay, so yeah, even if he did manage to kill this Drake clasher, which was very possible, with 2 archers firing and then an elvish fighter coming around to get involved, it would be totally possible to take him out, but it wouldn't save these 3 units. These 3 units were going to inevitably die. They were essentially fully surrounded. Over here, this little offensive was not going to get anywhere either. It's 3 units against 4, and one of those units is a scout and one is a shaman. So not a whole lot of damage dealing potential against 2 augurs, a clasher, and a fighter. So a lot of damage dealing potential. Stev just wasn't making any progress, and he now had Saurian skirmishers in his backfield ready to start stealing villages. So this was only ever going to go one way. But excellent play to both of them. Good job, Stev. Good job, Calendiel. Thank you for playing so much. Calendiel is advancing to round 2, and in the next video, which should be tomorrow, we will begin round 2. I know I've been recording and uploading nothing but Wesnoth lately, and that's because I'm just interested. I like this tournament. It's very interesting to me to watch everybody else's replays and my own, and comment on them, and look at what could have been done differently, or different people's strategies for playing the factions. So you can see here, Calandiel fought very, very defensively. He made very heavy use of Saurian augurs. He had a lot of them. He got 2 over there, 2 over there, plus I think might be even 1 or 2 more than that. Let's look at... Yeah, whereas the elves made very heavy use of elvish archers, also made very heavy use of scouts, which I think this was a mistake. I don't think scouts are worth recruiting that many of. Like 1 or 2, yeah, sure. 5, no. Definitely not. Once again, very lopsided kill-loss ratio. Luck, fairly okay. In fact, it looks like the elves were very slightly unlucky, but not by much. And Calendiel just played a really, really tight, solid defensive game as the Drakes, and took advantage of Stev's aggression to kind of draw his units in and kill them off piecemeal. So, once again, very good games. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see y'all in round 2.